Hi, everybody. I'm Patricia Rockman with the Center for Mindfulness Studies, and I'm here today with Elaine Smookler, who's a mindfulness teacher and writer and a comedian. So we'll see how funny she is today or not, since our topic today is on reactivity. And we're going to just have a little chat about how we're noticing and managing our reactivity during this period. So, hi, Elaine. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, Pat, and hi, everyone. Hi, Mom.
So, I think that for a lot of us, especially now we're into, 5 or 6 weeks of this kind of isolation. And I know that things are really slowed down for many of us. And I think that, in some ways, this makes our reactions to both internal and external situations more obvious. And I'm curious, like, what you've been noticing and how you've been managing it.
Yeah, exactly. When you talk about this interesting combination of things being slowed down, and the image that I got, as you just said, that is like throwing a pebble into a very still pond. And then you really, really, really see the rings of the pebble go out quite a bit. And you can notice how much that little tiny pebble interacted with this still pond. So that's how I would describe my awareness of my reactivity as everything has been slowing down at some level. And like you, I'm a longtime mindfulness practitioner as well. So it's also sort of intriguing. How does that all fit in? So on some levels, lots of things are slowing down. I have just celebrated my 6th week of incarceration. I have not even left my house. So oxygen makes me dizzy at this point. I really, so I really noticed that at one hand, I have a lot more space for awareness. I'm able to respond sometimes more gently. And at the same time, I'm so aware of how reactive I am. And I have watched myself many times in this last 6 weeks in this pressure cooker of COVID-19, living that in that moment, I go kaboom. I can feel it go so fast. I can be smiling and laughing and happy or quiet, or I might have just done an hour of meditation. And then I can't get into a Zoom meeting.
And so, like, what do you notice? Like, that sounds like that's a real example. So what do you notice when something like that happens?
Well, like just before this meeting, I had somebody wanted to interview me about something. And, I have a thing about time. If you say it's an X amount of time, if you say it's this time, you better be there at that time. I have some should in my mind about respecting time, even though whatever. So like, I'm there for the Zoom meeting and I keep seeing the swirling ball, the host, you're still being waited to admit it into this meeting. And I watched myself go from cheerful, happy, easy, looking forward to my interview. And then I could feel like the acid drip in my jaw starting as I'm waiting and watching that Zoom ball. And I'm like, what's going on? So then my start with my what's going on, I can feel it in my body. I can feel my chemistry changing. I can feel my thoughts starting to go into, this should not be. Why is this person wasting my time? Maybe what's going on? Like a million responses in my mind as I'm trying to figure it out and make it work. And then I'm trying to push down my reactivity so that I can have my interview start nicely, even though I'm very irritated at that point.
So,
So
so how did you work with it?
I'm trying to be really honest with myself about what I'm feeling and notice any tendency I have to try to push things away and make it better. And instead, I'm really turning towards abiding with things. Okay, my intolerance is here. Like you know, you know me well enough to know that when I get painted into a corner, what comes up for me is, how dare you? If I feel that pressure, how dare you waste my time, or whatever it is, whatever that habit thought is. So I'm able to, oh, how dare you coming up for me? So I can notice my how dare you. I can feel my wrist starting to tighten. I can feel the chemical change. And so sometimes I'll make a joke to the person I was with. I'll say something about what I'm feeling, out it, notice it. I find turning towards myself during this 6-week period has been absolutely crucial. And staying in loving contact with myself has been
Mm.
crucial. Because when bad behavior, I don't know about for you, but when I feel bad behavior is coming out of myself, I tend to want to beat myself up and feel ashamed, or, oh, I've let myself down. I should know better. Look how impatient I just got. Oh, look how tight I just got. Oh, and I've been practicing for 20 years. Oh, I'm a bad person. So I've really had to notice that I've had to be very kind with myself and be very, there. Calm down. It's okay. You don't have to like it.
Right. Um, Another thing I've noticed for myself is that sometimes, something will happen or certain thoughts will arise, and I'll really become aware that, I'm descending into some kind of a negative spiral. And normally what I would do would be to want to talk about it. And yet, like, we're either alone or we're with one other person, or maybe we're with a family, but we're not with very many people. And it's hard to, um, the usual kinds of ways we might manage, they're not necessarily available to us in quite the same way, right? Like go out for a walk. I mean, okay, you can go somewhat, but so I noticed one thing that when that happens, I'm becoming really aware of how immersed in the thoughts I can get and how much I believe them, and how much I have to really work hard to remind myself, like, oh, you're not going to feel like this, necessarily tomorrow, or you're not going to be thinking this tomorrow. And so sometimes the way I end up coping is like just by taking myself to bed. So it's like, okay, go to sleep, don't say anything, because, really what I'm trying to do during this period is to maintain as kind of an equanimous and stable an environment inside and outside as possible.
How's that working over you?
Well, often it does work, because we have a routine and a structure. But like when things like if I have to go to the grocery store, I feel super threatened and anxious. Or like I said, if I have these negative thoughts or if I'm not feeling well. So it's just kind of interesting, because things feel so much slower in a way, there's less movement outside and in some ways inside, that I feel like I just have more contact with whatever's going on. I can't kind of pull myself away from it as easily.
Yeah, and to me, something that you're speaking to is just because we're and I say this because you and I have talked about this so much, just because we're mindfulness practitioners doesn't mean that, like, choice is nice to have, but I've started to call choice a glimmer of choice rather than like, oh, this wide highway of choice. Oh, gee, I could have chosen not to react there, but instead I chose to react. Ha ha. It doesn't seem to work like that. It's like, oh, a little choice will flicker by in the midst of reactivity. So in preparation for our, as I was doing some notes just to think about our conversation today, I wrote at the, because I knew we were going to talk about reactivity, I wrote at the top of my page, shut my mouth. Because that is one of the things which I think you're speaking to. That is one of the things that you and I have spoken about in the past, and some things have happened recently, some difficult situations, and normally I would have done what you said. I would have wanted to talk to the community about it. This happened. I can't believe this thing happened. I'm so upset. I would have processed it that way. But somehow with this slowness, the positive side of the slowness, I actually noticed, oh, if I start talking about this thing that's upsetting me, I see it. I'm going to make it bigger. I'm going to pour gasoline on it. I'm going to entrench it. I I I didn't, when I say glimmer of choice, I wasn't able to prevent reactivity happening from inside myself. There was a volcano occurring inside of me. That was there. That was just for free. It was happening. But what I was able to do is I was able to regulate myself, be kind, and say, I'm not going to speak to anybody. People were calling me. We heard about this thing we want. And I kept saying, nope, I'm just not going to talk about that right now. And I changed the subject. I'd never done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gave me a day and a half to just be with the thing. And then I also wrote on my page, thoughts are not facts. Then I was able to, once the firestorm, the scorched earth feelings were gone, I was able only then to step back and say, whoa, what was that really worthy of that much heat? And then I was able to see, oh, there are ways that COVID-19 are putting me in a pressure cooker that I don't really notice because I think I'm doing okay. I think I'm a quantumist. That's why I laughed and he said, oh, actually, I'm really doing great. And then I blow up, something happens. That's not how you load a dishwasher.
Yeah, because yeah, it's true, right? There's kind of feels like there's this umbrella of tension if we check in with it. Related to what you were saying about shutting your mouth, the other thing that's tied into that was, what you were talking about, waiting. Like, and that's the other thing for me is waiting. Can I wait long enough to see how things change?
Nicely put.
Yeah. And, that's not always possible. Anything else you would add for people in terms of managing reactivity during this time?
So a couple of things I would add is, just because this is what I've been chatting with myself about, really notice a tendency to personalize things. I had a humorous encounter with my husband and we've been together for 23 years, where he looked at some food on my plate and made some comment to the mountain in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And I flipped out like, what are you saying? Are you telling me I'm eating too much? So ding, noticing personalization of other people's comments. So that was one of the first times I realized, oh, I think I'm under more pressure than I think, because normally that would have made me laugh, and instead it made me want to push him down a set of stairs. So noticing personalization, taking the time, ask what you beautifully just said, can I wait? Taking the time to reflect when I feel reactive, and really noticing my reactivity is a great guide. It is like an alarm that goes off that says to me, shut your mouth right now. Like, just zip it, lady, to myself. And the other thing is expectations. I was also reflecting on, what is it that makes me reactive? It's always the same. Expectations. I expected you to be here at this time. I expected us to have this kind of relationship. I expected the party to be like this. I expected things to feel like this during COVID-19 or whatever. And I keep bumping my head up against the same things. Oh, there is expectations again. So letting go of that and letting things flow more has made things more fun and easy when I can get there.
Yeah. Yeah. So this idea about what should or should not be and getting a handle on that. Great.
And being kind to ourselves when we flip out and say, yeah, sometimes you're still going to. And it's called being human. It's so come back as quickly as you can. It's like what we say about the breath. Okay, you notice that your attention has moved off the breath. Don't make a big deal about it. Just come back as soon as you can.
Right. I pushed you down a set of stairs. I'm sorry. Can I pick you up now?
Love you.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
too late for that?
Yeah. Thank you so much. So we're going to sign off now. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And yeah, stay safe and don't touch your face.